It is Wednesday afternoon once again, and we are back with Mr. Cashflow Live. Happy Wednesday. Happy National Blueberry Cheesecake Day. Kind of disappointed. Yesterday was National Wine Day, and I missed it. So, oh well. These weekly broadcasts that we do are designed to help you increase your business or practice's cash flow and introduce you to some great people and some subject matter experts that can be of help to you. Today, I think we've got a real good one for you. The recorded version of this broadcast will be found on the Cashflow Strategies YouTube channel. If you'd like to be notified when we go live, just subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell, and you will get a notification every time we're ready to go live. Feel free to ask questions as we go along, and we'll try to answer them live. If you are watching the recorded version of this broadcast, we'll get those answers back to you just as soon as we can. Today, we're talking about growing your dental practice without overburdening your staff. More revenue, more growth, less stress. I like that. My guest today is Pete Sylvester, CEO of an organization called TheRecallPros. TheRecallPros works along with your practice to re-engage patients and get them scheduled for hygiene appointments. They do it through outbound calling, handling your inbound overflow calls and chat. As you may know, I work in the dental world heavily and have for many, many years. And I constantly hear of offices that are short-staffed and they need to grow, but they just don't have the people in order to dedicate to growing the practice. Pete and I met just 1 or 2 weeks ago, and I knew that when he and I talked, that he and the Recall Pros were doing something that I had to bring to my audience. So, Pete, welcome to Mr. Cashflow Live.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's great. Great to have you. Pete, before we get into the nuts and bolts of what you guys do, let's get to know Pete a little bit better. So where are you originally from? How did you wind up getting to Utah, where you live now? And how did you get involved in doing call centers?
Yeah, great question. Probably ask those same questions to myself regularly. So I actually grew up in Wisconsin. I grew up in a small town called Waukesha. It's about 45 minutes west of Milwaukee. And then I turned 19. I moved to Utah because there's beautiful snow, wonderful mountains, and it's an airplane flight away from my family. Close enough so you can get on a short airplane flight, but not quite close enough you could hop in the car. So it was great. I don't miss the cold Wisconsin winters. I'm sure there's going to be lots of viewers from the area. I don't miss -20. I'm good with a winter that gets as cold as 25. So yeah, Utah has been wonderful for that. I actually did come out here going to get a biology degree. And as I was going through school, I realized I got involved in internet marketing, coaching, mentoring, and call floors. And I really, really quickly saw that I had a passion for something that I didn't intend on when I came out here. But I've been building call floors and working with companies for 15 years now, setting up call floors in a variety of different ways and purposes, some remote, some in office. Ranging from, setting appointments for dentists to setting up a call floor that will help people to make money online. So I've been around the block when it comes to that area. Dentistry is not my home, I would say. It's more the call floor industry and merging into what dental is going into.
Fantastic. In working with practices, and I work with practices all over the country, so many of them these days, especially, are running short-staffed.
Yeah,
they just can't get the right people. They just can't get enough people to work in the practice. And I would imagine, and you can tell me if I'm right, that getting patients recalled when you're short-staffed is something that kind of falls off the radar and just doesn't get done.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can't, today here we are, it's May of 2021. And I can just tell you, with the number of Facebook groups in the dental world that I'm in, I would say the number one post I see is we're short staffed. We can't get, hygienists. We can't get front desk, back office. We can't get people in the office to start working. And that's really where we've been able to pick up and help a lot of these offices, not always just taking on a new employee's responsibility, but lightening the load of the people that are already there.
Because the people who are there are already way overburdened.
Yeah.
I also work in the area of collections with dental offices, and I talked to a practice today that for the last 3 months has been telling me we absolutely need to get collections going. We just don't have the staff to get it started.
Yeah.
And so finally today they brought somebody back off of pregnancy leave and maternity leave, and we're getting that started for them. But it's really rough, and sometimes even sending out the bills goes by the wayside when they're so short staffed that they just can't get to everything. So let's talk about the outbound calling that you do first, because I think this is really significant. Tell me what it looks like, what kind of results you're getting compared to an office doing it themselves to re-engage those hygiene patients.
Yeah. Merging that in with your question about, or topic about having properly staffed, the job nobody wants to do is make outbound calls. There's 150 things to do in the office while they're there, paperwork building up, collections to get. The last thing they want to do is hop on the phone and make a big effort to schedule people into recare. So, it falls on that plate of, hey, when you have time, make some outbound calls. Well, that ties up their phone line. If somebody wants to call in, they'll get a busy signal. If a new patient is looking for treatment, the phone lines are busy and they're only going to call once or twice, and then they'll look elsewhere. So what we do is, that's all we concentrate is outbound calls. I mean, if somebody is not on the phone here, they're not working. They go home. When you're here at the Recall Pros, you're sitting at your desk, you're in somebody's computer, and you are dialing nonstop. If you've never worked on the phone, people don't realize the stamina that comes behind dialing nonstop, whether you're getting answering machines, whether you get hung up on. I hold my team to a standard. They're making 30 outbound calls an hour. So when you think about it from an office perspective, if I put a rep or 2 reps on your office for a night, you could easily be looking at 90 to 200 outbound calls in an evening. For some offices, that's half their past due client list.
Absolutely. So how do you get the lists that you call? Because you're calling their patients, correct?
Yes. So how we do that is we have a HIPAA compliant screen share software, and we know that every office uses their own dental software, whether that be Open Dental, Dentrix, EagleSoft, and some use external softwares like Dental Intel, where they have their client list. So we actually get into the computer, we pull the recare list, and we get that patient's phone number, and we just go down, we read the notes, and we get them into the chairs.
Fantastic. So what does the call sound like? If I'm a patient and you're calling for my dentist, which I probably should be getting a call. What is that call like?
So when we call, we represent as an assistant in the office. So, they get the call that it is from the actual office that they go to. In fact, when we sign an agreement with a new office, we go get a phone number with the area code that the office is in. And then we actually set up a caller ID so that the caller ID shows that it's the office that we're calling from. And then if somebody misses our call and they hit callback, it actually calls back to the dental office. So it's as smooth as an interaction with the office as it can be. We'll have all of their information as far as, what insurance they have, when the last time they came in, who was the last hygienist that they saw. So having all of that information at our fingertips, we're an extension of the office. We don't call and say, hey, it's the Recall Pros. We call and say, hey, this is Sunrise Dental, and we're calling to get you scheduled.
Which is going to be a lot more successful, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It never ceases to amaze me, though, when we get on the phone with a patient and we say their dental office and they go, who? who are you calling from? And we say, it's your dentist. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I can't tell you how many times
I haven't been there in years.
A patient's mouth is, take me off your list. I don't want an extended warranty on my car. And it's like, no, we're the dentist. Oh, okay, great. Let's get you scheduled.
Yeah. Okay, good. So your callers are making 30 calls an hour.
Yep.
I don't know if you have a good idea of this, but if someone was doing it in-house, even if they had some free time, let's say they took an hour of free time, how many calls would they generally be able to make if they were trying?
Probably less than 10.
I would say probably
less than 10. And you know what's so funny about that is they know who they're calling. They associate a face and that name. So they kind of cherry pick who they think is going to get in. We call everybody. We get patients that haven't been into the practice in 3 years.
Yeah, they don't want to call the ones who were mean to them the last time they were in the office.
No, they don't.
I know, because I come from a background of sales. I spent a lot of time smiling and dialing on the phone. Now I could do 50 calls in an hour, but that's tough. And that includes hang up.
The next phone over here, the next open phone, if you're doing 50.
But still, I don't do that anymore. And I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore. If you have any questions for Pete or questions for me, please feel free to type those into the comments box and we'll see those and we will do our level best to get those answered for you. Again, if you're watching the recorded version of this broadcast, then just enter those in the comments section on YouTube or Facebook or wherever. We'll get them and we'll get the answers back to you just as soon as we can. So you also handle Overflow inbound calls, right?
Yes, we do.
I think that would be super important for an office because, nobody likes to call their dentist or their doctor and either get a voicemail or nobody answer. So how does that work? What happens exactly?
So we set up a call forward, and the way that we work with offices is we just bill by the minutes used. The first time in, it's the first 300 minutes is what we'll bill for. We don't guarantee that we're going to get every single phone call. We guarantee that we'll pick up as many as come to us and we're available for. We give a detailed phone report at the end of every month of phone time used for that office. And then they can see that reflection back, obviously, in their phone reports as to what kind of help those patients needed.
Do they just set it so that after so many rings, if they don't pick it up, it goes to you?
Yep. After about 3 rings, if it's not picked up in the office, we'll get it here.
It's always better to talk to a human, rather than a machine. And even my clients, I wind up getting on their machine all the time. So, that's a good thing.
From my perspective, one of the things that I love to do is I call the dentist to say, hey, let's get you situated and get your phone system set up. And I laugh every time I call and I end up going right to voicemail. And, I might get a text message from their automated system, but to be really honest, 9 times out of 10, I don't get a phone call back.
Nope. It just says, if you're calling during business hours, we're busy with another patient. Well, I don't care if you're busy. I want you to talk to me, and that's the attitude a lot of people have.
Yeah. You're going to get 4 phone calls if you're lucky, and then they go somewhere else.
Okay. Let me ask a very pointed question, because I hear this in the collections world. I hear this all the time. One of the things that the docs are really worried about very often is their patients getting offshore calls,
Sure.
with a strong accent that they can't understand and be frustrated. And are you really from my dentist's office? That kind of stuff. So do you ever outsource calls like so many other companies do?
Absolutely not. All of our phone reps, all of our phone reps are here in Utah. To me, it's the most important thing in this whole industry is that your patients feel comfortable who's reaching out to them, because we're looking at screens that have social security numbers. They've got medical backgrounds. That's the last thing I would want anybody from another country to be able to see or have access to. They've got my address. They've got phone numbers. They've got so many things that, qualify as identification verification when you call the bank. It's all sitting right there. So, we keep the screens very monitored here as to what they can and can't see, where they can and can't go, what sites they're on. That all needs to happen in-house. And we have some really happy, perky people that, are born here in the States, and they're great, man.
I don't know, that really strong Utah accent throws people sometimes.
Yeah, right. My Wisconsin accent's probably the worst. Unless they start dialing for some offices in Milwaukee or Minnesota, people don't really want to talk to me.
Oh boy. Yeah. That's good, because I get that a whole lot. And I hear that all the time from people. That my business, we talked about this. My business is all about cash flow.
Yeah.
And so I am constantly working with practices to improve their cash flow. Part of that is reducing their expenses. Part of that is increasing their revenue. So, is this expensive to do, first of all? And what kind of returns can a practice expect when they're using the TheRecallPros?
It is not expensive. In fact, I would tell you it's more expensive to not do it than it is to, step up and start treating your recare more seriously. It's the lifeblood of any practice. That's where you're going to find the fillings. That's where you're going to find out who needs a root canal. That's where you're going to be, talking about orthodontics and things like that. It's by having people in your chair. It's keeping your hygienist busy. Your hygienist should not be on the phone trying to fill her or his schedule tomorrow, because I guarantee you the amount of time that you're paying that person to be on the phone far exceeds anything that we do at the TheRecallPros. We bill only on what we do. So if somebody signs up for a month, which we don't have year-long contracts, this is month to month. So we can work with somebody in May. They don't want to do anything in June because their schedule is full, and we pick it back up in July. That's totally fine. There's no monthly billing for that. We only bill on the work that we accomplish, and we bill the first of the next month. So all the appointments that we've been scheduling all May, that won't get billed until next Tuesday. So, especially those first 3 weeks that we've been scheduling, the offices have already seen those patients and they've already done the billing. So again, what are you out? If we dial for a month and we don't schedule anybody, the practice has no cost, none. But we reached out to, 1,000 people, and we got a pulse back for your office to be able to understand the clients a little bit more. Maybe they don't feel comfortable with what's going on in COVID. Maybe they found a new dentist. That information is invaluable for how you're operating in the office.
Absolutely.
And touching earlier on when I said you have people who are going to cherry pick who they're going to call, they might pick somebody who didn't have the best of experience and the dentist doesn't know. So at the end of the day, I actually send a very, very detailed phone report of the number of people that we dialed. It will say, these are the people scheduled in these chairs on these days. Hey, these are the patients that we dialed and they found a new dentist, they moved, they have new insurance, you need to deactivate them. Part of running an efficient office is knowing, what do you actually have for a client base? Have they left and gone elsewhere? Was an insurance change a bad move for the office and you need to, look at that again and make another decision? And then the last part we put in is patients that need extra help. We dialed somebody yesterday. They said, I can't come in for a cleaning, but I'll tell you what, I have some wisdom teeth that need to get pulled. I send that note to the front desk, and the next morning they open up my email. They see Joe Smith. Here's his phone number. He needs his wisdom teeth pulled. They call and they schedule that right then and there. That's not anything that we charge for because we didn't schedule anything.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, so let's say one of your guys calls me and I say, I would never go back to that dentist again because whatever, his bedside manner is terrible, and the hygienist smelled funny, and whatever. Is that all included in your report?
100%. 100%.
Wow.
And you're
That's
going to get
good stuff for them to know.
Absolutely. You get an unfiltered report of how your staff is treating your patients. I mean, as a dentist, how would you feel if you opened up your report and a person said, I'm not coming back because I was treated poorly by staff, or the person my last hygienist made my gums bleed and XYZ happened.
It's also better than getting bad Google reviews or
100%.
Yelp reviews or whatever, and the doctor can then address it. Half the time he probably doesn't even know about it.
Yep.
This way you're keeping up with the people who are coming back as well as the people who aren't coming back. You can probably get as much valuable information from the people who aren't coming back as you would from anybody else.
Yeah.
So if I was, let's say it's a 1 doc full-time, whatever, or a 2 doc practice, standard small dental practice, what's reasonable as far as a number of recall appointments that you could do for them in a month?
It's going to depend on their client load.
And their schedule, I would imagine, how busy they already are.
Yep. So we have a little bit different model than what people expect. They expect a monthly plan that they're going to get billed every month. That's not how we work, because that's not the way that their office functions. What we actually do is we come up with a monthly goal, because I can't guarantee anybody's going to pick up. They can't guarantee anybody's going to pick up. And we can't guarantee that the openings in the calendar fit with what the patients need at the time. So we just set a monthly goal. The typical goal to start with is 25 appointments. Once we hit 25 appointments, we touch base with the office managers or the dentist and say, hey, would you like us to keep calling, or would you like us to pump the brakes and pause? Some will say, hey, we hit the 25. That's great. Let's start fresh next month. Others will say, hey, let's schedule away, fill out as many as you possibly can.
Rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I have an office right now that we've been dialing on. The goal is 25, and we're already at 98 appointments for the month.
Oh my gosh. Now he's looking for an associate, I would imagine, and that kind of thing. So is there any way that a practice can lose money by using you guys?
No. The only way
I like to hear that.
I guess I should, if we're talking 100% possibility, if I scheduled 25 people and all 25 people didn't show, yeah, we would have an issue there, because we bill on appointment scheduled. But I will tell you, I have never had an office come to me and say, hey, I need to stop this arrangement because the people that you're calling aren't showing up. That doesn't happen. I've never had that phone call. And to be really honest, their no-show rate mirrors what they see in the office already. So if the office is seeing a 10% no-show rate, that's going to correlate over to their patients, because I don't have any control over confirmations, but ultimately that's a culture between the office and the patient. But I will say offices are starting to see a better response and a better show rate from when a person calls to schedule versus the impersonal text or email.
Or robocall.
Yeah, I can tell you personally, I don't respond well to text and emails from my dentist or my doctor. Somebody has to pick up the phone, call me and say, Pete, you're behind, you need to come in. And it's that call to action that's like, well, they know that I need to be there, so I better get my butt into that chair. So
in my mind too, I think that a lot of people don't reschedule hygiene just because they don't think about it, they don't get around to it. Just because at my last appointment they filled out an appointment card for 6 months later and I stuck it in my wallet doesn't mean I'm ever going to remember.
Yep.
And sometimes it's inconvenient and I just don't go. And it's not because they've decided I'm never going back to the dentist again. It's because they just don't get around to it. And if somebody's on the phone with them and says, hey, how about we schedule you, at a time that's convenient to you? Yeah, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. Now I'll remember and that sort of thing. So I think that's great. And the fact that this is a no-lose situation for a practice. They can't lose money. All they can do is, the worst they can do is try it out for a month. It doesn't meet their expectations and they say, have a nice day. And you say, have a nice day. And the best thing is that 90 appointments, if they can handle it, is scheduling 90 appointments. Super. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
Well, just because you have a clientele that exists outside of dental, I do want to be clear that our services don't just apply to dentists. Optometry, hey, somebody needs to come in for their eye check and they miss their appointment.
What about chiropractic?
Pick up the phone. Hey, we'll do that for you. Veterinarians, somebody's they have clients that need their teeth cleaned. They need maybe it's a shampoo, maybe it's their nails clipped. If somebody has a list of patients that needs to be in their chair and they're swamped and they can't make their calls, or they don't want to make those calls, let us do that for you.
I think this would be great for chiropractic too.
Yep.
So yeah, let's expand out and see what we can get done here. Anybody who has necessary recall appointments, I just think that this would be tremendous. Anything else?
Now that I can think of, I'm so pumped to have your viewers, hear what we've got and what we can offer them. We're just so busy right now, and we're hiring just like everybody else. But we're here to help. We're only capable of doing what we're doing, and we're only able to continue it because we are keeping people's calendars full. We don't have yearly contracts. So the fact that we've been around as long as we have, going month to month, and we have the same practices in there, clearly they're happy. They could go elsewhere if they so chose. We just have agreements to hit those goals, and we're happy to knock those out of the park.
Fantastic. Well, Pete, thanks so much for joining me today on the show. I appreciate it. I think this is something really important for my dental clients to hear, and anybody else out there. If you'd like to contact Pete directly, here is a number at which you can text him. And if you'd like to schedule a 15-minute call with Pete to discover more about the Recall Pros, and he can learn a little bit more about your practice and kind of talk specifically, I'm going to put a link to set up a 15-minute phone meeting with him in the description in YouTube. So if you go back to the YouTube replay of this, there will be a link that'll take you right to Pete's calendar and let you just schedule at your own convenience. I suggest that you do, because I think this is just tremendous. And when you talk to Pete, make sure you tell him that you saw him on Mr. Cashflow Live. Thanks again, Pete.
Hey, no worries. Thanks, guys.
If you'd like a no-cost cash flow checkup to evaluate ways that your practice can improve your cash flow, even beyond the Recall Pros, feel free to call me or email me anytime, and join me every week right here on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern for another episode of Mr. Cashflow Live. Your bottom line will thank you for it. Until next week, I'm David Weiner, Mr. Cashflow from Cashflow Strategies. After all, it's your money. Keep more of it.